Welcome to Campfire Football. I'm Sebastian North. The United States men's national team have crashed out of the Gold Cup, beaten by Panama on penalties. Let's break it down. So we'll do this in three parts. First, a match analysis, tactical breakdown, and talk about the key moments of the game. Then we'll talk about what was achieved this tournament, what was learned. Some of these things are positive, some are kind of negative. And then we'll talk about the missed opportunities for the coaching staff, for the team, for USSF. Where did they miss a trick? All right, so let's start with a match recap, tactical breakdown, and key moment review. Now, little disclaimer, yes, this game was terrible for the first 90 minutes. Got better in extra time because there were a couple goals and crescendoed with the penalties. But I watched it a second time, and there were some interesting tactical things to take away. So hopefully you enjoy those. So starting lineups and formations. As you can see here, the United States started with a 4-3-3 with Matt Turner in goal, Reynolds on the right, Robinson Long in the middle, Jones on the left in the defense. Busio, Sands, and Mihailovic through the midfield, Ferreira, Vasquez, and Cowell up top. Panama went with a 3-4-3 formation with Andrade, Cummings, and Escobar as their back three. Davis and Bárcenas as the wingbacks, Godoy and Carrasquilla in the middle, Diaz, Quintero, and Fajardo up top. I was surprised by some of these choices by BJ Callahan. First of all, Aaron Long, starting in the back, having not played much this tournament, was a little strange for a semifinal. I understand Jalen Neal was nursing an injury, but there's still Matt Miazga, so I'm not sure what that was all about. Then you have Busio, Mihailovic, and Sands in the midfield, and they were set up in a flat three, which I thought was a little strange, but we'll get into that. And then up top, it was nice to see Cade Cowell get to start on the left, and Brandon Vasquez finally start in the middle. But it was weird to see Ferreira start on the right. Now, I know that against Jamaica, when Brandon Vasquez came on, Ferreira was left on the field, and the same against Canada. But to start Ferreira at right wing. Now, before I start really getting into what happened in the game, I want to roll this clip by BJ Callahan's post-match presser, because it was very interesting to see what he said about the way he set the team up. Have a listen. Check this out.
For the first half, the first half is my fault. So I didn't set the team up the way they should have been set up, and we were able to make the adjustments at halftime. And I was so proud of the group, the way they came out in the second half and the way they responded. So I don't have anything but positive things to say how the group handled this match.
So I don't really know what he means specifically. Like, what things did he ask them to do that did not work? But I'll just go ahead and give you my point of view. So defensively, the United States were trying to wait for their moments to press, but more than anything, they wanted to stay compact. There were multiple times where you saw the front six players, so the three midfielders and three attackers, in like a perfect tight rectangle. And you could hear BJ Callahan early in the game saying, stay narrow, stay narrow. Panama are playing a 3-4-3, which means they are trying to go sort of from side to side, stretch the United States as much as they can, and then find balls to their front players. Basically, if you can avoid them going to the side and then advancing, if you keep them going around the middle and the back, eventually they might play a ball into midfield that you can pick off and transition. And you know what? It actually worked. The very first play of the game, Cade Cowell receives a ball after the United States force a turnover, and he hits the post. Djordje Mihailovic had a chance a little bit later where a ball was sent into the box and he volleyed it, where once again the United States had waited, bided their time, Panama played a risky ball, they stole it, and could have scored. So if any of these balls go in, BJ Callahan probably looks like a genius for the way he set the team up. But at the same time, Panama did have a lot of possession in this first half. On the other side of the ball, when the U.S. were in possession and say they were building out, so Davis and Bárcenas would retreat, form a back five, and then Diaz and Fajardo would drop into the midfield to form a line of four. What this did was leave really little space for the United States to play balls on the ground into the midfield, and it basically neutralized Busio and Mihailovic completely. Davis and Bárcenas dropping back meant that they could just mark up on Ferreira and Cowell and kind of neutralize them. And what that meant was Brandon Vasquez was against two or three center backs who were big, robust guys, and he had a horrible time trying to hold up the ball. Now, the United States' most dangerous penetrating option would have been a big switch to the outside backs running forward. If they could move the ball around the back line and midfield a little bit, Reynolds could then make a run forward and there would be acres of space for him because Panama would shift over quite a ways. It was the same on DeJuan Jones' side, but the problem is the U.S. rarely used this pass, and it looked like the one that would destabilize Panama the most. But look, you don't use it, you won't cause problems for the other team. Now, in the second half, the United States did improve, but not really significantly enough to win the game. And they missed some key chances. Brandon Vasquez was the first one after being set up by Cade Cowell. Should have scored even though it wasn't the easiest of finishes. And Ferreira also had a really big chance. We'll get to that one in a minute. But first, let's go over some of the substitutions that happened. Cade Cowell struggled a little bit. He wasn't able to get all that involved. But as BJ Callahan said, that was more down to his game plan than the actual players. And it was not long after Cade Cowell set up Brandon Vasquez that he was withdrawn for Christian Roldan. And then Reynolds comes off for Yedlin. So Roldan and Yedlin come on. These are two substitutions that did not age well, and we'll get to why. Both teams were getting decent chances, throwing punches at each other, but then the United States had their best move of the match. Ball goes to Turner, he gets rid of it, it comes back to him, and at this point, the midfield has shifted and Busio has found a good amount of space. Matt Turner sees the passing window, plays it to him, Busio has a very good turn and starts driving into midfield. Now, he almost loses the ball after this tackle, but does end up shifting it off his feet, goes to Yedlin. He ends up playing it to Ferreira, who narrowly misses. And yes, this is close, and you could call him unlucky, but he hits it with his ankle. If he hits this clean and it barely misses, okay, fine. But he mishits the ball. And that really was the big moment for the U.S., I think, in the 90 minutes. Had they scored that, they might have gone on to win the game. Now, before the 90 minutes were up, Panama made a change, and it was really interesting what they did. They switched from a 3-4-3 to a 4-3-3. Their center backs are very far apart, with Mosquera in the middle, able to help distribute play. But what was interesting is the right and left back would get so high that they would basically outnumber the U.S. midfield. There would be just more options for them to play the ball, whether it was long or short, and the U.S. would have a lot of trouble dealing with this, which we would end up seeing on the goal. So the game goes to extra time, and this is where Panama take the lead. Let's go over their go-ahead goal. So the ball goes back to Turner, he clears it out, Panama settle it well, and they establish possession and get their shape. The ball comes to the left, and then it comes back across. They're just trying to stretch the U.S. midfield. So as Escobar picks up possession here, Sands is caught between Carrasquilla and Ivan Anderson, the goal scorer. He's basically in no man's land. What Mihailovic needs to be doing here is getting across, getting closer to Carrasquilla, and Sands can then drop in to Ivan Anderson. James Sands making his first big mistake of the Gold Cup. He gets caught ball watching as Martinez receives the ball, and Anderson just runs off his back. And this is where the mistakes just dominoed. Now, Miazga steps into Waterman, who checks the ball. And this check by Waterman is good because it pulls Miazga out of his back line, leaving space for Anderson to run in behind. Now, as this ball is dropped back to Carrasquilla, Mihailovic is still just not close enough to him. And Carrasquilla is able to take a touch, keep facing forward, and just lift the ball over the U.S. back line. So Miles Robbins sees what's going on, and he tries to jump forward to catch Anderson offside. But there's a bigger problem, and that's DeAndre Yedlin. He's the farthest defender back, which he shouldn't be as the right back. Your center backs should be so that they can be the ones dictating the offside trap. For Yedlin, a guy of his experience, this is just not good enough at all. Now, Matt Turner's been back there watching this chaos unfold in front of him, and apparently he decided he wants to get in on the act too. Why he goes outside of his box, flinging himself for the ball, trying to do some kind of flying volley is ridiculous. Turner's been great in this Gold Cup, but this is a howler. And then to make this goal just that little bit stranger, Miles Robinson does not look like he even tries to get in Anderson's way. He doesn't jump, he doesn't dive or slide in front of the ball. He just keeps marking his man in the middle. So I don't know what that was all about either. Overall, a collage of mistakes from the U.S., and Panama take the lead 1-0. And then the U.S. come back and equalize, and you have to give them credit for doing it, but the manner of it is just kind of lucky. You can't really plan goals like this. It's just a lofted ball to the top of the box, a flick header by Jordan Morris, and Ferreira hits it with his shin and scores. So 1-1, and we're going to go to penalties. But then Ferreira goes in and tries to press, and then he pulls up with cramp. And this injury stoppage was not a short one. Ferreira did look in a lot of discomfort. Now, if you've ever cramped up in a game before, what you know is that you can probably ease it up, stretch it out, get some fluids, and keep going. But the next cramp is just around the corner. And I say that because when we got to penalties, he was the first taker. Look, Ferreira could have easily scored his penalty. But the thing is, a cramp is one of those things where you don't exert yourself 100% when you're doing something for the fear of pulling up again. And you need to be as dialed in and sharp as possible when you take a penalty. So I was skeptical of this, and he missed. In the end, Waterman scores his penalty. Christian Roldan's is not terrible, but it's not great. And Carrasquilla makes sure that everyone remembers Christian Roldan as the villain. Congratulations to Panama. They fully deserved it. Now let's talk about the future for the U.S. So what was achieved from this Gold Cup? Well, let's go ahead and talk about the best player the U.S. had. To me, it was James Sands. He's probably the one player who has kind of put himself in the picture in the minds of the coaching staff to be part of the A group. Now, I'm not saying he would start, but I think he'd be a really good replacement for Tyler Adams or Yunus Musa should either one of them be injured. Not many other players really rose their stock. Cade Cowell did well, scoring a fantastic goal against Jamaica. Jalen Neal and DeJuan Jones both did a really good job in some of their games, so they're good players for the future. And I guess Brandon Vasquez put himself a little closer to, say, Ricardo Pepi, but overall, not really anyone else stood out. And that's the biggest problem. There would be more positive takeaways if more players showed something good. The upside of this is we know who cannot be relied upon, although I imagine this was pretty obvious for a lot of us from the beginning. Now, some of the guys that are in this squad who didn't perform well, they can still grow, they can still up their stock. Busio, Mihailovic, Robinson, Miazga, Reynolds, Vasquez, Ferreira, but they're going to really need to raise their game with their club teams to make a case for themselves to be selected for the national team as we go forward. We also just got more confirmation about players we would all just like to not see again. That's Roldan, that's Jordan Morris, that's Aaron Long, that's DeAndre Yedlin. Or some that don't really fit at the moment and maybe down the line, but probably not. I'm really not sure where Gressel fits in. I'm really not sure where Aiden Morris fits in down the line. But overall, we learned a little bit more, and so we'll see how that goes. All right, let's talk about the missed opportunities. Now, a lot of people have said that this squad should have been totally different, and I agree. This should not have included a bunch of MLS vets. This should have basically been an under-23 team to prepare for the Paris Olympics. Why did we not bring our A-team to come and win this competition? Well, look, think about the A-team players. All of them are on a small, 3-week break before they have to go back to preseason. Some of them are finalizing important transfers in Europe. So it makes no sense for any of them to be here. Which raises the question, why is the Gold Cup scheduled when it is after the Nations League? Is CONCACAF trying to say that the Nations League is more important than the Gold Cup? Because that's exactly what they're doing by the scheduling. If you flipped them, it'd be totally different. I think seeing a B team or an under-23 team go and play is much better. But some of these selections, they just weren't really valuable. They gave us nothing. So what are some other opportunities that were missed? Well, here are two players who got 0 minutes in this whole tournament. Gaga Solina in goal, and Jackson Ewell. I didn't even realize he was there. The reality is fans want to see the future here. Fans want to see where this is going, where it's heading, what we can be excited about. We also know the center back position is not totally locked down. Walker Zimmerman's always going to be a part of that. But who is going to be his partner? It can't be Tim Ream forever, so someone's got to step up. And I don't think Miles Robinson acquitted himself that well in this tournament. The other missed opportunity is the manager. BJ Callahan got a look, he got involved, and it's great, I think, for his career. But he was never going to be considered for the job because Berhalter's already confirmed his coming back. Berhalter probably should have been here for this. It's definitely a missed opportunity for BJ Callahan because he started off on such a good foot winning the Nations League with a strong team. But here he showed so many tactical frailties, especially as the competition went on. And so that's it. The United States crash out of the Gold Cup. Panama go on to play Mexico in the final. And now starts the process of really getting ready for 2026. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football. Thanks so much for stopping by.